Web animations is always a hot topic. In React apps, you have a vast array of options to implement animations. You can see many examples on the web that demos their capabilities, like the ones we're seeing now. So the options available to you are CSS method uses CSS styles, so there's no need to do any React coding. React Transition Group, this is a library that features basic CSS animations and transitions. React Animations is a library that is easy to use. React Spring, this is a physics-based animation library that has advanced motion animation features. So in this tutorial, we're going to be looking at a React Spring to implement a login register form. In this tutorial, you're going to learn how to create an animated login register form using React and a module called React Spring. Now, the form has two buttons at the top, and the active button will have a bottom border with the color blue, and when I click on register, it will animate the form, the register form, and it will slide in. If I click on login, it will slide in the login form. Notice how smoothly the animation is. And also notice the animation of the border underneath the buttons gets animated as well. So you'll also get some tips on how to make this aesthetic looking background gradient. So let's get started with the project. Okay, for this project I'm going to be using Node.js and Visual Code. I'm going to be using Node.js to install a React. So you need to, if you haven't got a Node.js installed, then you need to go to their website and install Node.js before you can continue. So let's start the project. Okay, first we're going to go to the desktop and create a folder called Login Register App. Then we're going to go into Visual Code and open up that folder that we just created on the desktop. So we go to Open Folder and select Login Register App folder. Okay, for the next, we need to install, we need to create a React app. So in order to do that, we go into File, and then we select New Terminal, go into the terminal window, and then we type npx create React app space login register app. This takes a little bit of time, so I'm going to fast forward. So once that's finished, we can go in and do some cleanup. So if I go into the sidebar and look at the source directory, you'll see a whole bunch of files there. So we are only going to keep the app.css, app.js, and the index.js, and we're going to delete everything else. delete the index.css as well. We're going to go into the app.css. And we're going to delete everything in the app.css. And in the index.js, we're going to take out the references for the service worker, and we're going to do some cleanup. And at the top as well, we're going to take out the service worker reference and the index.css reference. So that's how you clean up the starter. We're going to go into the app.js. So when you run the create app, you will click on start a set of start npm scripts on the left bottom. What I just done is just cleaned out things that we don't want. So we're just going to have the basic. Okay, I'm just gonna click on yes here because I've got another app running, but in your case you should be it should run with no problems, and it should start the browser. Okay, in this case I've got some error at the bottom in the terminal screen. It says can resolve logo, so I need to get rid of the logo references here. I'm gonna just get rid of the markup that we started with, so we don't need the initial markup that create app created. So we're just going to put in a message saying this is our app. Now if I go to the browser, it should have our little message there. So to recap what I've just done, I've deleted everything except for app.css, app.js and index.js. This is under the source, root of source. And in the index.js, I've deleted all references to service worker, and also took out the line that links the index.css. We're not going to use the index.css. And in the app.js, I've deleted everything in between the div wrapper that wraps your app. So I've took out all the JSX markup, and also took out the line that links the logo. And also you can run the server by going to the left-hand bottom corner under the npm scripts, and you can run server there, or you can alternatively type in npm run start in the terminal window. So both ways you can start the server. So before I continue, I just want to revisit our design. Okay, what I usually do is I break down the design and look at the layout and map out the containers, the wrappers, and the components that I need to code. So as you can see here, I've got like container, login, register, wrapper, and have buttons, form, group, and the forms. So what I need to do is derive a skeleton code that resembles its structure. So as you can see here, I've got a like container, I've got a div for container, div for login register, and have buttons and a form group, and I've also added a forgot panel which is not in the design. So this is what I'm going to be coding into the React view. So this is the base structure that I'm going to start with, then I'm going to fill in the blanks. So this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to start with a container now. In our app, we called the root container container. So when you create a React app for the first time, the root container can be found in the public directory and in the index.html. So what I'm going to do now is go into the index.html and find the div with the root ID, and in there I'm going to add a class called container. Now we can go back into source directory, and in the app.js we can start to lay out our structure of our app. So first of all, we need the second level wrapper is the login register wrapper. So that's what we're going to do. Then we're going to lay out. Then we're going to put the divs for nav, buttons, and the form group and forgot panel. So when you're entering the JSX markup, be careful to name the class as class name, not class. That's a JSX particular syntax that you need to be aware of. So so once again, I'm going into the app function here, and under the return, I'm returning the JSX, the view for the app. Okay, let's go into app.css and do the styling. Right, first I'm gonna do the reset styles. These are the basic default styles that we're going to start off with. This is sort of box sizing, border box, font families, open sans, and margin 0, color inherit, and background color inherit. I've also added a border 2px solid orange. So this is going to be applied to all the containers and sections that we have in our layout. So this I've just put in this is just temporary to show the borders around the container, so that if we make any mistakes, it will stand out. So let's see what this looks like. Okay, next we need a picture for our background, so we're going to do that next. Now for the background image, we're going to go to a site called pixels.com. Then we're going to go to the search bar and type in office buildings, and we're going to choose this one in the middle. We're going to download it and rename it as pic.jpg. Okay, now we've downloaded the picture and renamed it as pic.jpg. Now, if I'm going to set it as background image to our pic, and the background size is cover, and background position is center. So what basically this is going to be is it's going to set it as a background and it's going to fill the whole screen. We also have a container with 100% and padding top 60% and padding bottom 100 pixels. Okay, let's see what that gives us. Next up is the login register wrapper. I've given it a height and width and a margin left and right auto, basically to center it. Also giving it padding and border radius and a box shadow. Also made it overflow hidden. Now I also need a group background gradient for this. For this I'm going to go to the site called cssgradient.io. And I've already set up two colors here already, a dark blue and a light blue. And in the sliders you can adjust the percentage. And if you go down, there's a sort of a dial that you can adjust to get the angle of the gradient. So I need 180, so I can just type it in 180 there. Then if you look at the top, you can see the angle has changed there. The color is going from top to bottom. Before it was left to right. And you can also adjust the percentage. And I'm gonna also add another color here, and I'm gonna make it white and then give it a transparency so that it gives it a transparent effect at the bottom. So I can adjust the slider for the transparency there, and as you can see at the top, it's giving you a transparency. Then I can adjust it to whatever percentage, and if I go down, I should get the code, and you need to select the second code for the background. You just copy and paste that into our code. So there you go. And that's what it looks like. So you see the gradient at the bottom, it's a transparency. So now we go back. Next up, I'm starting the nav buttons here. Nav buttons, I've given the container a width of 100% and height of 100 pixels. I've given it padding, opacity 1, the button size and margin right and border, the standard stuff, and I've given it the outline as 0 px. I don't want the outline. And also when it's active, I've given a border padding with border bottom 2px blue. So this is what it looks like. So you see the border there, and it's sort of centered the content in that container. Next up is the forgot panel. Nothing special here. I've given it a position, relative, height, and margin left and right, auto to center the content, text align center, padding top and border. I've given it sort of a faint border to at the top. So let's see what it looks like. Next up, I'm going to be entering the code to render the login form. As you remember, I put in the login form as a separate component, and so I'm going to go to the login form function and enter the JSX for the form. So there's nothing special here, just a standard form with ID as login form. Okay, let's just see what that looks like. Okay, as you can see, I've got all the fields in there, but it's not styled. So I need to go into the app.css and start to do the styling for the forms. So here I have the form group import, so standard styling, width and height and padding, border radius 5px, margin bottom, and I've given it a background color of a transparency color. The label is I've given it sort of uppercase, text transform of uppercase. The import color white, and I've given a border radius of 20 pixels and a background color of blue. So let's see that. So as you can see, it's got this sort of a transparency effect on the input fields, and the button is 100%. Okay, next we're going to do the same thing for the register form. So we're going to go back into the app.js and go to the function that renders the register form. So it's going to be the standard form with it's going to be a form element with register form as ID, and I'm going to have full name, email, password, confirm password, and submit button. So it's the same thing. As you can see here, we can't see the register form properly, I think because of the overflow settings. So we need to go back into the app.css and go into the CSS styling for the login register wrapper, and we need to just comment out the overflow hidden property. So that temporarily we need to see the form, so we can set it back later. So this is what it looks like. Now we can continue with adding the register form settings. We need to position it to the right hand side. So we're going to give some positioning properties to this. So the particular settings that we're going to give is we're going to give it a left of 500 pixels and a position top of -230 pixels. So this would position it to the right of the login form. Next, we need to style the forgot panel. Okay. So we go back into CSS and we give the forget panel a margin top of -300 pixels and a color gray. There you go. Finally, I'm just going to give some final positional and animation settings. So here I've given the form and forgot panel position relative. That's very important because we're going to be changing the position relative. So also I've given it a transition of all 5 seconds ease. We don't need these transition settings, but it's just for a backup. So for the login buttons, I've given same transition of all 5 seconds each. But we're not going to use this, but we're just going to put it in there just as the backup. So, but the position relative is quite important. Okay. Now that we have everything in place for our animation, we can go and start to install a Spring now. So I'm going to go back to the app.js, and then I'm going to just stop the service here. Just do Control C. So I'm at the terminal at the bottom. Okay. Okay, so now I'm gonna type in install. Sorry, npm install react spring. Okay, this will install React Spring for our animations. Okay, so once that's installed, then we can bring it into our app.js. So we'll put in a command right at the top, import, and curly brackets, and use Spring with a capital S, comma, animated. And we want to load this from react spring. Okay, now this will load the modules that we need to animate our forms, login form, login and registration form. Okay, so next we need to create a variable to monitor the status of the registration form. So we're just gonna focus on the registration form. We don't need a variable for login. So this is just so that by inspecting the registration form status, we will know what the status of the login form is. So that's what we're gonna do now. Okay, so it's gonna be a constant, and it's gonna be registration forms status. So it's going to be called registration form status. Okay, so this is going to have a set method as well. Okay, so set registration form status. So that's gonna equal to, it's gonna be a use state hook, use state, and it's gonna be set to false. So initially, what this means is we're gonna set the registration form status to false, so it's gonna be basically we want to hide it. So when we want to show the registration form, we will say the state will be true, and so changing the state of the registration form status will also, we will also know that the opposite is true for the login. So So we don't need to create one for registration login form status. Okay. Okay. The next thing we need to do is we need to register the click method. So for the buttons we've created, we want to create an event to monitor the click events. So to do that, we go into so we need to add an onClick handler. OnClick equals curly brackets, and so onClick, we want it to call a function called login clicked. Okay, so we want to do the same for the registration button. Okay, so it's curly, but we're going to call it register clicked. Okay, so we've said that we need a function to handle the login clicked, and we need a function to create a register clicked. Okay, so that's what we're going to do next. We're going to create two functions, and it's register clicked, and for the time being, what we need to do is we need to set the registration form status here. So when we click it, we need to set the set registration form status to true. Okay, so we do the same for login clicked. Login clicked, and say login form status. So we got the two functions. Oh, that should be false. So what we're doing here is if the registration button is clicked, then we want to set the registration form status to true. If the login button is clicked, then we want to set the login form status to false. So here what we're saying is, oh, it should be registration form status. So okay, so when registration is clicked, set registration status will be true, and set when the login is clicked, set registration form status is false. So basically we're just hiding, well, we just say that we want to hide registration form and we want to show registration form there. Alright, okay, so we can also test this out if I put just an alert there, alert, register clicked, and put another alert there just to test this out so that we know we're in the right direction. Log in clicked. Okay, so let's save that, and I need to go back into the npm scripts here because we and click on start. You've seen that start button there, so that we get the server starting again. Right, so it's working now. Okay, so just replace, right, just to refresh. Okay, so registration form says not defined. Okay, registration form not defined, line 10. Set registration form status. So it should be that. Some sort of spelling mistake there, so I'm just going to copy that and paste. Okay, so it seems to be working. So just do refresh. Right. So I should get an alert now. Register clicked. Login clicked. Okay. So that's good. So we've created the function. When something is clicked, then it will alert something. So when the login button is clicked, it will alert login clicked. If register button is clicked, then register is clicked. So the next thing, we're going to look at the Spring API. So this is I'm at reactsprings.io, the docs, and using it, use Spring. Okay, so this is how we achieve animation using Spring. So we have a set of props, and these are the properties that you want to animate, and then you can toggle between them. Here you're saying opacity 0, 1 starts with 1, then you can toggle between 1 and 0. So this is what we're going to do for the each form: register and login. And also these props will be passed into this in the render element in the JSX. So, and we would create an element called animated, and here it's saying it's a div, but we need to create it as a form. So it would be animated.form, and then we pass in the properties that we need to animate. So to get it like this, we need to do a little bit of refactoring of the JSX. So that's what we're going to go back in and do that. So if I go back and look at the login form, and we would need to put in animated dot form and action equals dead dot inverted commas, sorry, ID equals login form. Oops. Okay, so and this needs to be in there. Okay, so we created a new element, a wrapper, animated wrapper that goes around the login form, but this is creating a form element here. So we're already creating a form element here, so we don't need this form element here. And the way React works is this is not valid because it hasn't got a wrapper. So we need to give it a dummy wrapper, which in React you can do something called fragments. This is how you do that. Okay, it's React dot fragment, and so this will be the wrapper. Okay, so we'd save that. So we haven't got any errors. So we do the same for registration. Okay, so it's copy that. So we do the same for the actual function that returns the form. So it's going to be a React. So it's a React fragment. So save that. I haven't got any errors. Now we're going to create the properties. Okay, so we also have to send in a style to the animated wrapper. So style equals, and it's going to be I'm going to call it login props. Login props. Okay, so we're going to have another set of styles for the register. So now we need to create the props. Okay, it's constant. Login props. we're gonna animate the left position. And we're gonna toggle between the register step form status. Okay, so the form status is so it's going to be a ternary. So if it's true, then we need to move it -30. Otherwise, we need it 0. Okay, so we're also going to have another property that we want to animate. So opacity, and it's going to also depend on register form status. It's a ternary, and it's going to toggle between 0 and 1. Okay, so now we're going to create another one. And this is going to be for the reg props. So that's the reg props. Go down. So that's okay. So that's register props. Register. So that's going to be there. Right. We're going to call it register props. So register props, and for this we're gonna say move. If it's true, we want it to move to the 0 position, and if it's false, then we need to move it to the right 430, and we need to give an opacity of 1 if it's true, opacity of 0 if it's false. So let's just see what that gives now. So if I do a refresh, now we should, it's hidden there, so okay. So that's moved in. So now we've got the login. So click on register. We've got the register. Click on login. Got the login come in. Register. So this seems to be working. Okay, so we're just gonna go in and clean up. I don't want the orange. Don't want the orange border. Okay, and also. And also I don't want the alert. Okay, so I don't want the alert anymore. Save that. And okay, so I click on register, moves in. I click on login, moves out, moves in. So that's working, and we've got some little bits of cleaning up here, and we need the button sorting out. That's what we're going to do next. So we're going to do some more cleaning up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the opacity. I don't need the opacity. Instead, I am going to hide. Well, I'm going to set the overflow as hidden. So if I go save that, okay. Now if I go into app.css, I'm going to go to the wrapper. Let's just see. All right. So I've got the overflow is hidden. So I'll just uncomment that. So now should be a bit better. Okay, I need to move this to the right. Okay, so I need to go app CSS, make that 500, make that 500. So just spaced it out a bit more so that we don't see it. Okay, now don't see it because it's hidden in the overflow area. Okay, so if I now click register, okay, so that's working. Okay, next thing we need to do is we need to animate the border for the login buttons. So we've got the buttons there, so we need to animate both of these now. Okay, so first we need to create a constant, call it login buttons. Okay, so there's a constant login button props. Now I'm going to be using Spring just as we done in the previous login props, and we're going to animate the border bottom here because we animated the left position value there. So it's the same procedure. We're going to toggle on the registration form status, so if it's true or false, we're going to show the border or not show the border or show the border. So so if the registration form status is true, then we need to hide the border. If it's false, then we need to show the border. So then we also need to feed that props into the button styles. So we need to do the same thing what we've done here. It's animated form, but we're going to call it animated button. So just add animated button to it, and closing tag is animated button, animated dot button. Okay, then we need to feed in the style props. Okay, so and need to add it there. Okay, and we just realized we don't need this class because we're not going to use it. Okay, so it's going to be called login button props, btn props. So if I do save and see what that comes out with. So we should this should disappear when we click on this. There you go. So now we need to do it for the register button. Okay, same procedure. But this time we're going to reverse it. So if it's true, then we want to show it, so tpx. If it's false, then we need to hide it, 0px. Okay, so then now we go down to the button and we do the same thing, animated dot button and closing tag animated dot button, and then we need to add the style then we call it register btn props. Okay, so save it, and then we go, and that's something's gone wrong there. Okay, the problem was we've got the transparent color. It's showing it, but it's hiding it because the transparency. So we just need to change the colors over. So okay, so if we go back now, refresh, hopefully, there you go. So one thing we got left to do is the forgot text there, because it's not moving, it's staying stationary there. Okay, so it's a quick little thing to do. If I go back, so I just gotta feed that. Right, if I go to the login form, okay, so I just gotta feed that into that. So I've gotta make that into an animated property, animated div. So, and okay, so then I need to feed in the style prop. So I'll just feed it there, and that should do it. Okay, so there you go, that's moving. So there you have it. This is how you do animation with React and Spring. So hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and hopefully I will come up with another animation, same thing with login and Spring with using Vue.js framework. So thanks for watching, and see you next time.